where we empower you to make evidence-based, sustainable, and transformative changes for your health, leading to a more vibrant and fulfilling life. I'm your host, Abby Sasier, a non-diet registered dietitian, certified intuitive eating counselor, and master's graduate from Columbia University. I believe that we can't make lasting or meaningful change single-handedly. So I'm so happy that you're here so that together you can see that a diet-free, sustainable, healthy lifestyle is possible. And you can leverage that to live a better life. And remember my disclaimer, this podcast is meant to give you general information and is not meant to substitute or replace medical advice, a diagnosis, or service treatment. Y'all, this episode, we just finished recording, Hannah and I. Y'all are going to love Hannah Calhoun. And this episode is so mind-blowing. I learned so much. I had revelations. This is going to transform how you see yourself and give you so much more language for what you can say to yourself on a negative body image day when you feel like your body is just fighting against you and when you're feeling really frustrated with yourself, your health, and your happiness. Oh, so good. So Hannah and I actually connected on Instagram and that's how we found each other. And she is just such a godsend. Love her. She's in her dietetic internship right now. She already has her master's in nutrition and dietetics. And she also has a pediatric nutrition certification, which is really cool, all from Florida International University. So she's based in Miami, a slay girl. And she's about to graduate from her dietetic internship in January of 2024. So only a couple months from this recording. We're very excited from her. And she has a lot of experience with eating disorders at the residential level, post hospitalization. She's done intensive outpatient levels of care. Like she has a lot of experience. And her Instagram account, which we'll link in the show notes, every body nutrition, is where she posts all of her evidence-based content. And that's how I found her. And I found her from this one post that she put that said, like, say this, not that. And she posted, here's something that people normally say, and here's how to reframe that in a positive way. It was just so good. So, so good. So I knew I had to bring her on the show so that we could talk about this more. And now her and I have like become friends. Like she's just so awesome. So I can't wait to dive into this episode and for y'all to get these insights. It's incredible. So I'll see you in the interview. Well, Hannah, thank you so much for being on with us today. We appreciate you joining the Be About Being Better podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to
Our
be here.
Yes, girl. Thank you so much. I love connecting with you on Instagram and just following your journey. And I was super inspired to do an episode like this based on several of your posts, like the series that you've been doing, Say This, Not That.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, we need to talk about that because you had so many good reframes. I was like, Slay,
Yeah.
girl. This is so intense. I was like,
Sometimes you make a post and you're like, oh, I don't really know like how this one's gonna do. And yeah, everybody, really like resonated with it. And so yeah, I was
yeah,
very
because I think
pleased.
like we know that the thoughts that we're having, I think at some level, that this is not serving us. This
Yeah.
is maybe a more like destructive thought or just, sending us down more of a shame spiral. But if we don't have the language, if we don't have something to replace it with, and we only have that negative thought, like we'll just keep reinforcing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people struggle too because it's like, oh, would that be so negative? Instead of saying, I hate my body, say you love your body. And people are like, well, I don't. And so I feel like a lot of the reframes that are out there that people are encouraged to say aren't even really realistic. And so instead of saying like, oh, I hate my body, like you don't have to say, oh my gosh, I love it so much. I'm so beautiful and amazing. You could just say, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable with myself right now. And maybe even dig deeper and say, like, I'm feeling a little bloated or I'm feeling not very strong. So identifying exactly what you feel. So it's not like, dipping our toes into toxic positivity, but it's like digging deeper into what we're feeling and
Yeah.
naming it.
Yes, and honoring that. Like it's okay to have feelings and negative feelings about your body. Like it's okay. Might not be
Yeah.
necessarily serving you, but it's okay to acknowledge that because then you can start to work through it. And just because you
Right.
have thoughts doesn't mean that you have to take disordered action on those thoughts.
Right. 100%. 100%. And that really shows someone who's healing, whether they're healing from disordered eating behaviors or recovering from a diagnosed eating disorder. The thoughts might still be there. They might be less loud. They might be in the back of our mind instead of in the forefront of our mind. But it's really about, what are we doing with those thoughts? Are we taking them and running into, disordered practices, disordered movement, disordered eating? Or are we like acknowledging them and just letting the feelings exist? Or taking productive steps to address how we're feeling. Like, if I'm feeling super inflamed and bloated and stuff, I might be like, okay, let me get out of these freaking skinny jeans and put on some more comfortable pants, you
I
know?
was talking about this on TikTok, and of course, this is the post that goes viral where I'm talking about how much weight I've gained and how the clothes don't fit. But it's like, all right, y'all. No, but seriously, I do appreciate the views in the comments, but I'm just like, of
The
course,
juicy details, a dietitian gained weight. What's up?
literally though. And so I was talking about, I was like, oh, fall is my favorite season, and like literally none of my fall clothes. And
Yeah.
it just so, disappointing, frustrating. And I was just going down the shame spiral. And I was like, I was having urges of going back into dieting. Like, okay, no, just because
Yeah.
doesn't mean I have to do anything about it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, I do need to buy some new clothes. As frustrating as that is to spend money on that, having clothes that are stabbing me in my sides, squeezing me, I feel like I'm
Leaving
pouring
like
more.
marks on your stomach or whatever on your waist, like, ugh, that's the worst.
It is, and it constantly is triggering me,
Yeah.
and it reminding me that, like, I have gained weight, so it's bringing more
Right.
attention to it, where if I just had clothes that fit, like, yes, it's uncomfortable to get a larger size. It was already uncomfortable for me the last season to get the size that I had. Now I gotta get something larger, so that's
Right.
something I have to reconcile, but, wow, I'd rather have clothes that fit and are comfortable, so I'm not constantly re-triggering myself.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you know what? It's like you can also analyze like what has happened in the last year. Like obviously you did your dietetic internship, so balling on a budget or not even a budget, like non-existent money. Okay. Like balling on being broke. So working full time for free and not only for free, but paying to do the internship. And I don't know how long yours was. Mine is 8 months. How long
Oh,
was yours?
mine was 10 months.
Okay, see? Yeah. So basically a
Wow.
whole year of full-time work with no little to no income. You're paying to do it. You're switching locations. You have a basically a different boss every couple months with a different style and a different personality. And you're still trying to learn and you're still trying to like show that you know stuff, but also like ask the right question. It's like very stressful time. So you're stressed. And, I have had less time to engage in movement that I enjoy during the internship. Like, I'll just say that. Like, my schedule's always changing. So I can't do like the exercises that I love. So my body is probably gonna be like up and down, throughout this time. And so like you can, yes, like buy the bigger size because you deserve to be comfortable and clothes are supposed to fit us. We're not supposed to fit into them. But also assess like what has happened in the last year. Like, was this weight gain like necessary? Maybe I was like undernourishing myself last year. Maybe I was over exercising, or maybe I just went through a lot. My body just changed. And now, as I adopt a new routine and a new schedule and a new self care like plan, maybe my body will go back, but I'm not going to hold on to this pair of jeans that's like stabbing me in my waist
Right.
with the hopes that my body goes back to the size it was before.
It
Maybe it will, maybe it won't, you know?
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly, but we can't necessarily hope for that, but
right,
that can't stop us from doing things in the present moment that would make us feel comfortable, so I need to
right.
go buy new clothes, and with that, there are some healthy habits that aren't clicking for me right now, so those are some tangible action steps that I can take that aren't disordered, like, I need to be moving my body in a way that feels good more consistently than I am now, so that's one thing where I'm like, I'm not over exercising, but I need to, at least for me, 3 days a week, at least 3, and it helps with the dogs that I have, to do some
Yeah,
longer walks, and that I'm just really resonating with longer walks right now versus
yeah,
any HIIT workouts or any cardio, so, alright, I need to go on, like, 3 long walks a week. That seems manageable. I've always been consistent with that, so I was like, "Alright, let's do that as, like, a bare minimum," and my sleep, my bedtimes, and my wake times have been very inconsistent, and we know,
horrible.
I mean, yeah, it changes your
I
hunger.
mean,
It keeps, it changes your digestion. It can have you feel more inflamed.
it can
So
impact
what
your stress, which, yeah, can also affect all those things. Yeah,
All of those things. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
honestly, I feel like that's probably the root of it is, like, with lack of sleep, you're just more stressed, and that's changing your hormones and, like, all those other things. Yeah.
Yeah, like what you were saying about, like, your movement has changed and you're not doing as much as you have learned feels comfortable for you. Some people and, like, I just wanna highlight, like, everybody's movement preference is different. Like, people like to do different kind of things. Different movement things, like, obviously, cardio is good for your cardiovascular health. Strength training is, like, important for, like, your bone density, your muscle mass, all of that. So people kinda can, like, go into like, "Oh, I'm like a lifter and I never do cardio." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." I was like super into HIIT and then which if people don't know, that stands for high intensity interval training. Like high impact, like fast movement, it's usually like a 60-minute workout. It's not going to be like a 2-hour lift session. So it's quick, it's high impact. And then I like started to, have like some pains and stuff in my body. So I dropped that. I started doing yoga and not even like the strength training yoga, like literally just like the sleeping on the yoga mat, like in the fetal
So
position yoga,
close.
like that. And that was what I needed at that time. That was what I needed. And I did that for a few months, and then I kinda, like, went transitioned to, like, walking, and then, like, walking faster, dabbling in a little bit of running here and there, like, not anything extreme, kinda, like, exploring, like, my limits with that, and then I went back to HIIT, and now I like to do like, for you, your thing is 3 times a week, my thing is, like, twice a week. But I'm good to once a week with my schedule and stuff lately, and I
Right.
think, like, there can be a lot of shame and judgment in, the ebbs and flows of our, desire to move, our interest in certain, movement methods and styles, like, we can really get down on ourselves about that. Like, I was kind of like I kinda cried when I was, like, moving away from the HIIT training and going into yoga. I was like I've done this so long and I felt so strong and I'm not gonna be strong anymore. I'm kind of judging myself and the possible outcomes that could come from shifting my movement style. But you have to honor like what your body is asking for in different seasons.
Yeah, because it might be
Oh,
overtaxing.
yeah.
And then it's having the opposite effect that it leaves you
Right.
more depleted when exercise should be giving us more energy and endorphins, like that runner's high, quote unquote, is
Yeah.
very real. So, yeah, if seasons aren't necessarily calling for that, we have to give ourselves grace and be flexible. And
Right.
that's why I like to say movement versus exercise. Because I think
Yeah.
when people say exercise, they have one definition of what that
Right.
is. It has to be an hour. I have to be sweating. It has
You
to
have to be at
be
the
really intense.
gym, like, yeah, really intense and yeah.
Very formal. And no, there's so many different ways to move your body. And in a really busy season, you're
Yeah.
more likely to show up for moving your body more consistently and have, the hours and the minutes start to stack up. It's like, oh wow, over the course of the week, I ended up doing, you know, a couple hours, more than what I was doing before. It's easier for you to show up, a smaller barrier for entry when there's so many different ways that you can move your body and it can look different. You're being more flexible with yourself.
Yes.
That's so good. Well, a huge thing that you talk about on your page is body neutrality or weight neutrality. I don't think we've really talked about that too much on the show, but what I have mentioned in previous episodes is what you had mentioned before, where it's not always realistic to be super body positive. And if your reframe is like, "Oh my gosh, I love my body." Like, you're probably not gonna believe that if you were just saying 2 seconds ago that you hate your thighs. Just because we can't be body positive doesn't mean that we now have permission and should be body negative.
Right.
So, this shift has become, "Okay, let's try and be more weight neutral." So, could you
Mhm.
explain kind of what that is, how we find that, and how that benefits us?
Yeah, so weight neutrality or body neutrality for just me as like a woman in the world would look like kind of what we were talking about. Like, okay, you noticed that you have gained weight in the last year. I've noticed like, personal body changes and stuff. I wouldn't say like weight gain, but maybe like a shift in body composition a little bit. And so instead of acknowledging that and being like, oh, I can't believe I gained weight. I suck. Like my body's gross now, is awful. I'm not attractive anymore. Instead of focusing on that and like staying in the body negative, it's just like, okay, I gained weight or I'm feeling a little more jiggly lately for me. My arms are jiggling when I brush my teeth. No, it's kind of like just like, oh, this is an observation that I'm making about my body that exists in this world. And it's like data. Obviously my muscle mass has changed a little bit. And let me think about why that could be. Oh, that's because like I haven't been able to go to the gym and do my little strength training sessions. And so that's why. And it's just very like matter of fact. And so it's without judgment. It's without and then let's say like I do get back into it and my biceps are popping and stuff and I'm feeling good or whatever. It's kind of like, okay, so, you know, now I'm I'm strong. Like, I gotten back to what feels quote unquote normal for me in regard to like my strength, but it's not like I'm better now than I was before. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I almost think that takes like some level of maybe nutrition knowledge or knowledge of like maybe even like your menstrual cycle or just like other more like tangible facts that could be going on. So it's not like, oh my gosh, I'm not a failure. It's like, no, you're not a failure. You're just about to
Right.
get your period in a couple days. You're in your
Right.
luteal phase. We bloat at this time. So that can just like logically be like, oh, okay, I'm not doing anything wrong. My body's just going through a season. Or
Right.
oh my, I didn't eat enough today, or I didn't drink enough water, or, I ate something that was really salty yesterday. And that tends to make us more inflamed the next day. Hey, I got less sleep.
Mhm.
What are like some other things? Oh, if you had a really intense workout the day before, yeah, you're probably going to be more inflamed because your body's repairing your muscles and
Right.
it's sending so many nutrients there. It's trying to, repair the muscles that were damaged in the workout, which is, I think
Exactly.
that's what naturally happens. So you can almost be more neutral with it and not catastrophize.
Yes, yes, like, you're not there's no spiral. There's no,
Yes.
like, body negative, shame-based spiral that happens. I like what you said about, like, you're about to get your period. So, when I'm about to get mine, I, like, want to inhale all the carbohydrates inside of the grocery store. And I might be like, "Oh my gosh, what is the matter with me?" And then, obviously, like, the next day, I get my period. And, of course, I am bloated too and stuff, and I might, like, look in the mirror and be like, I look like this because I just ate a bunch of carbs, but it's not true. Like, the bloating and the craving for carbohydrates, like, is because I'm about to get my period. And that's just what happens to me, and there's a reason for that in our body. And then you also said weight neutral. So a
Mm,
weight neutral person would be maybe like a provider, like a weight neutral medical doctor, a weight neutral registered dietitian. That's basically someone like you or myself who you're a registered dietitian, I'm loading, processing, almost a registered dietitian. Well, so us as like weight neutral registered dietitians would understand basically the same thing that we would understand for our own body. Like if a client, comes up to us in a bigger body, we're not automatically going to be like, yeah, I calculated your BMI and you're overweight. So we're going to have to fix that. Like that's not what we're doing. We're like, okay, like let's take a look at your habits. What does your sleep look like? What does your movement look like? What does your intake look like? What's your stress levels? What do you have access to in regard to like,
yeah.
a gym or a park or a grocery store? And so we're not looking at this person and being like, oh my gosh, their body is bigger than mine. And, what I deem ideal and so they must be doing something wrong or they don't have enough willpower. We're not associating weight with morals. And we're not assuming that, like, yeah, someone's weight is the result of them not trying hard enough or not living
Mhm.
healthy enough. Cause the reality is that it's so multifactorial that we just, you can't look at someone who is overweight or in a larger body and say, like, oh, you just need to go to the gym. What if they do 5 days a week? We don't know, you
Right.
know?
You can't look at someone and assume their habits. So, like, weight neutrality and this whole concept is really working to untangle that weight means health.
Right,
Mhm.
right. Let's say like we're working with someone and then all of a sudden they lose, X amount of pounds. We're not gonna be like, yeah, oh my gosh, this is great. I'm so glad. I'm so happy for you. We would be like, okay, like, how did you do that? How did that happen? What
Mhm.
happened that you lost that weight? And if they say, well, I started skipping dinner and I didn't have breakfast and I only had lunch. And like we find out that their lunch didn't even have a protein and stuff. And they were like exercising for 4 hours. Like, it's like, okay, this is not good. Now the weight loss is not a good thing. It's like, are we promoting health or are we promoting be skinny no matter what it takes?
Yes. Oh, and, just in my experience working with so many clients over the last 5 years, some of our clients that are in smaller bodies have the most disordered habits, where we have clients that are maybe even 350, 400 pounds that exercise 4 or 5 days a week. They're meal prepping, they're hitting their water goal, they're getting adequate sleep, they're meditating,
Yeah.
journaling in the morning. Like, they're doing all of the things and their body's gonna, sit where it naturally wants to sit. And
Yeah.
because weight is multifactorial, we can't
Right.
really say what that is, but
Right.
their labs are literally perfect. Where I have clients that are in a smaller body, their cholesterol's through the roof.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's just so much to it. And we just really can't look at someone and know without a shadow of a doubt that they are healthy or unhealthy. And there's hormones that come into it. There's genetic predispositions that play into it. You don't know. Like people say, it's funny because I'll read comments on Instagram, which is a horrible idea. If you ever want to have faith in humanity, don't read Instagram comments because that will just go out the window. Like people are so ridiculous. It literally makes me want to like cry. People will say like the gym bros or whatever that obviously didn't study nutrition and dietetics will comment something like, "Yes, diet and exercise, diet and exercise." I'm like, "Dude, if it was diet and exercise, it would be like 1% of the population would be overweight. If it
Right.
were that simple, nobody would be in the hospital, hospitals would be shut down, they wouldn't exist, medical professionals wouldn't exist, no need for them." You know what I mean? Like, if that was like the be all end all of, physique and health, it's like nobody would need help. That would be the answer. It's more than that. It's so
It's so
much
much
more
more than
than
that.
that.
And my clients that are in larger bodies, they are like top tier. They would be at the executive level. If dieting was a company, they would be the executive level. Like literal professional dieters. It's not for a lack of willpower or discipline,
Yeah.
because they have tried every diet and they have done the best they can. Like they just keep trying. Like,
Yeah.
because they're just, striving to lose weight, and it's diet culture wants to make it seem like it's our fault for failing and not being able to follow through on the diet, when it was a faulty system to
Right.
begin with.
The diet was gonna fail. The diet
Right.
is not sustainable. If your health plan has a start date and an end date, it's not realistic. Like what happens when it's over? Why do you have to start being healthy and stop being healthy? Then it's not healthy.
Right.
Because like it shouldn't. And we talk about different seasons of life where different things are more feasible. Like right now, it's really hard for me to go to the gym, but it's not. Like there's a flow of life that we're not robots.
The difference between saying, "Hey, in this season, this is the healthy habit that I'm gonna prioritize, bring more intention to,"
Right.
versus saying, "I'm doing this cleanse for 30 days."
Yeah. Yeah. Or like I'm
There's
gonna try like intermittent fasting like throughout the holidays. First of all, why would you do that? Don't do that to yourself. Eat
you
the
will be more out
pecan
of
pie.
control. You'll be way more out of control with food if you start dieting.
And it's
I
like,
can't.
especially around Thanksgiving, Christmas, like don't do that to yourself. That makes me miserable thinking about it.
Oh my gosh,
Um,
wait, I have to tell you something. Oh my gosh, so I was on the phone with my mom the other day, and I'm so proud of my mom because she is, like, in the thick of diet culture, but she stood up. She's on the wellness committee for New York State, and at first I was, like, nervous. I was like, "Mom, you're on the wellness committee?" I'm like, but she stood up in the meeting, and they wanted to do this, "Don't gain, just maintain. The only thing that should be stuffed this season is the turkey, like, step challenge or something," and they were gonna weigh everyone, count your
no.
steps.
Oh my gosh.
So my mom stood up in the meeting and was like, "Absolutely not. We are not doing this. It
No.
is not your employer's job to be, like, monitoring your weight,
No.
monitoring your steps. That's not their job. They should be monitoring your performance. Hello."
Right. Right. Or they could say, "Oh, yeah, we want to make sure that you guys have time to take care of yourself. So we're going to give you more PTO that you could take time off and like go to the spa, get a massage, do the Pilates class that you want to do." Like, it's like, okay, do that. If you give me that, then okay, maybe. But not if we're like, trying to
Not like
control my
shame, yes,
weight. Like,
exactly,
that's
and just,
weird.
like, so much shame and just, like, rooted in diet culture, like, is that really your employer's place? So, I'm really proud of my mom for, to give her a little shout out. I'm proud of her for standing up in that meeting, and she said, "Wow, I didn't really realize until I was in that meeting how much your content has really impacted me," and I was like, "Oh my gosh," like, that just gives me
Oh,
so
that's
much
awesome.
joy that she had the language to be able to say that and realize, I'm like, "Oh, this is not right. This is doing
Yeah.
people more harm than it is good."
Yeah.
For someone that kinda grew like, I grew up with really an almond mom, so for
Wow.
her to be able to see and say that, wow, like, that was huge. So
That's awesome. That really is that to see it click in people who like, were so had, like, diet culture ingrained in the core of their brain, like, it's to see it click and to hear them, like, put it together in their own words, you're like, "Yes." You're like, "My work here is done.
Good.
Accomplished."
But, for anyone that, like, hasn't worked with, either of us, but is listening to the podcast, like, just know you can get so much and so much knowledge for yourself and see real transformation and transform people in your lives just by listening to this content and getting a different narrative
Yeah,
and starting to challenge what diet culture has been really, like, brainwashing us with. So it really can make a difference.
and brainwashing women. Can we talk about that for a minute? Like, it like, I mean, obviously, like, men are not, immune to the wrath of diet culture, and I think there's a lot of pressure for, like, men to be jacked and ripped and whatever, and jawline and, 6'4", whatever, like, there is pressure, okay? But but if you look at the creators of all of the common diets that mostly women do, they're all just like old men, like the South Beach diet and the Atkins diet. And the marketing is towards women, so it's like,
Yeah.
why are men trying to tell us what our body should look like? Like, that's
Right.
weird. That's weird.
And whenever we have a negative thought about ourselves, like, think about who profits from that.
Yeah.
You shaming yourself and feeling like you are a failure and that you need to be fixed.
Yeah. There was a quote, and I don't know who the quote comes from. So pardon me, the quote giver. It says, diet culture forces women to face the mirror instead of the world. And I was
Ooh,
like, wow.
wow, that's good.
Yeah.
That's so true. That's
Yeah.
real.
Because if we're hungry and we're lightheaded and we're insecure and just, so like small, physically and like in our head. When I think of, like, when I feel most insecure, like, I feel, like, small, like, I wanna disappear. Like, I don't wanna take up space. I don't want my voice to take up space. I don't want my body to take up space. I don't want my, stupid opinions to take up space, and, like, why do we have to be, like, small? We're allowed to exist. We're allowed to speak and to exist and to take up space and to, go out there and, like, conquer the world, conquer your thing. If your thing is like marketing and sales, conquer it. If your thing is like nutrition and dietetics, go do it. Like,
Yeah,
if your thing is like
absolutely.
fashion or like, being a stay-at-home mom, which is a full-time job, by
For
the
real.
way, then
For
be
real.
like, do it and be the best at it. And I just think like how much time is wasted. Like, if our mirrors could keep track of how long we spent in front of them, nitpicking every inch of our bodies, like at the end of our life, how much time have we spent in front of the mirror? And how much of that time was like, "Oh, like, I just love my outfit." Like, how much of that time was, like, positive?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so good. I hope that people really, really think on that. And the next time that you do look in the mirror, maybe think, like, could I say something positive to myself? Like,
Yeah.
if you have a negative thought, maybe we can work to reframe that. And hopefully this episode will give you some reframes. So
Uh,
yeah, kind of walk us through, like, what are some common things that you hear your clients, your audience saying, and how do you help them reframe that?
yeah. So, going off of what we were just talking about right now, like, one thing that I personally do for myself, like, talking about the jeans and the body changes and stuff, if I put on a pair of jeans and I see, like, some skins bulging and stuff, instead of being like, "Ugh, like, I'm just so, like, fat today," I could say, like, "These pants are not serving me right now. What else can I wear that's more comfy?" So I'm acknowledging that I don't like the pants. I'm acknowledging that I don't feel comfortable in them, but I'm not blaming my body. And then there's also a solution because I'm going to change out of the pants and find better ones that in my closet, that serve me. Another thing that people say that's more like food related is I want to eat less chemicals. First of all, take a chemistry class. Everything's chemicals. Yeah. So throw out the H2O because that's a chemical compound. But anyway, everything's chemicals. But like, so it's like, well, what are you actually trying to say? Like, maybe you're eating a lot of packaged foods. Maybe that's how you feel with like long ingredient lists, which usually packaged foods have like a pretty hefty ingredient list. So maybe what you're really saying is that you would like to prepare more food at home from scratch. So I'd like to start cooking more food at home. That's a reasonable thing to say. And you're kind of saying the same kind of thing, with more like fresh, whole ingredients, and then I can make it. That's
Right.
okay. Like,
Getting to the root of it.
yes, yes. And you're not judging the packaged foods that do serve a purpose when you're either on a budget or on a crunch for time. So yeah, that's another reframe.
And you can also say to that too, like, okay, I acknowledge that I'm in a really like when I was in my dietetic internship, I really had to rely on a lot of convenience foods, prepackaged foods,
Yes.
stuff that I could just throw in the microwave, frozen dinners. And I just had to acknowledge, like, I'm in a season right now. I have to give myself grace. I have a goal of maybe not making more meals from scratch at home. That's not realistic for me right now. So I'm just going to give myself grace
Yeah.
and leave it at that and acknowledge the season that you're in and know that that's okay. Um,
100%, 100%. Because I always tell people, because people will, find out that I study nutrition and dietetics. I'm becoming a registered dietitian. They'll be like, okay, well, what do you think about like Wendy's or like McDonald's or like Chick-fil-A or whatever? And I'm like, it's better to eat than just, oh my God, my watch is talking to me.
you're like, yeah, your watch is like, yeah, I don't have an answer for that.
I'm like, yeah. I was like, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Thank you, Siri. I was like, I better not say her name or she'll just jump in as an extra guest on here. So people will ask me, like, what do you think about like fast food restaurants? Like, should I eat it or what should I do? And I'm like, okay, I'm just thinking about myself, like Christmas shopping. You're out longer than you plan to be and you're suddenly starving. Instead of like forcing yourself to stay starved just to go like eat and make something at home, like if you want to go pick something up because you're literally famished, like do it. It's better to eat than to starve. It's okay. Like that one like moment. Sometimes I'm out running errands. I always like relate this to Christmas time. That's when I'm like busiest out, like there's traffic. Sometimes I'm like, dang, I really want some Wendy's right now. And like, that's fine. You get it, you enjoy it. You're like, oh, I remember when I used to eat this when I was younger, whatever. And then you move on. You nourish yourself, you move on. Or if you're on like a long road trip and like you run out of snacks and there's traffic and it's taking 6 hours instead of four, like you go to a rest stop and there's like just a Taco Bell, like get it. It's okay. Nourish your body. Your body's not going to be like, oh, this is Taco Bell. Like we're going to turn this just straight into fat on your body. We're not even going to use it for your brain or anything else. Like, your
Right.
body just breaks down the food. So, don't stress too hard about stuff like that. So like, yeah, convenience foods serve a purpose and we don't have to have shame and judgment around them.
Mhm.
So another
Oh, that's
thing
good.
that people say is a lot of times people will say, I feel fat. And there's a lot around that. And it might be too much for a person to process at one time. So my first question would be like, well, why is fat inherently bad? That's like a whole topic for another day. But so if you're saying, I feel fat, and I have said this before in the past, I have felt like this. I have very close friends that say this and feel this. And what I challenge myself and others, in that moment, because in that moment, you don't want to hear, well, why is fat bad? And blah, blah, blah. You're like, I feel like crap. Just leave me alone. Stop giving me lecture. So
Yeah.
what I challenge myself to think about is to dig deeper and be like, okay, what I am usually feeling is like extra bloated, or maybe I'm just like, again, like the clothes are just not serving me. Like I feel bloated. I feel uncomfortable with my body right now.
Fat is not a feeling.
It's not a feeling. And that's why, yes, fat is not a feeling. That's why I encourage people to dig deeper. I'm like, what are you really feeling? And maybe you're feeling so insecure that you wanna, like, shrink, right? And so you feel, like, too insecure to take up space right now, and so you wanna feel smaller. So you can identify it as, like, "I'm just feeling really insecure about myself today." So and, I don't like saying, like, "I feel fat," because it's like, why is that bad? Fat is not a feeling, and, like, if you are fat, like, you don't have to feel bad just because you're fat. Like, you know what I mean? So using it as, like, a complaint about yourself. Like, fat doesn't inherently mean, like, ugly. And so it's just a lot to unpack there. But yeah, fat does not it's not a feeling. It's not a
Yes,
feeling. So,
yes.
like,
And
dig
even on
deeper.
those days, yes, dig deeper. And once you identify what that is, whether that's you're feeling insecure, or you're feeling more bloated, or just frustrated, stressed that day, lonely, there's so many different things that you could be feeling that day. Once you get to the root of it, acknowledging, even though I feel this, I
Mhm.
still deserve to nourish myself.
Yes. Yes. I still deserve, to take care of myself and to nourish myself. And it's like, if I'm having like a hard body image day, and I'm really drained and I really want to nap, and then I see myself in the mirror, I'm not going to force myself to run on the treadmill because I'm feeling bad about myself. If I need to rest, I'm going to rest. Like,
Right.
you know, you gotta be able to take care of yourself. And again, like, that's the difference of, like, the people that are healing coming out of this disordered lifestyle. The thoughts might still pop up every now and then, but it's the actions that follow the thoughts. What are you doing with those thoughts? Are you still choosing to take care of yourself regardless of your emotions about yourself and how you look?
Yeah. In my experience coaching clients through this, they need to first acknowledge the thoughts and get deep, like what are we really feeling before their actions can really change.
Mhm.
But it takes time. So give yourself grace in that process, but
Yeah.
acknowledging your thoughts, bringing more awareness to it and realizing that these thoughts aren't serving you and working to get to the root. What am like this is what I'm saying to myself, but what am I really feeling? What do I really
Right.
mean by that? Then you're from there, that unlocks a whole other layer. Okay, I can sit with this, or I'm gonna have to sit with this negative emotion for a little bit. What's a kind of healthier way to cope? That's maybe like outside of food if you typically turn to food to cope. And how do I kind of cope with this in a non-disordered way
Mhm.
where I still am nourishing myself and still respecting my body?
Yeah. So moving away from destructive coping mechanisms to productive coping skills is
Yes.
important. Very important
Yes.
for all of us. Another thing that people say is like, I just want to cut out carbs. I just want to cut out carbs. And I'm like, okay, we need carbs. Number one. Number two,
Yeah.
what are you really feeling? Like, are you feeling like maybe like your days have been a little carb heavy? We need them, but maybe like you feel like you haven't been getting enough protein. You want to, have some more non-starchy vegetables and stuff. And that's like more of a concrete statement to say like, I think I need to like amp up the protein a little, or I think I need to prioritize protein a little in the next few meals. Like, that's like a concrete statement that you can take action from. But saying like, I just want to cut carbs, it's like very extreme. There's judgment. And then it's kind of just like, but you're not like making a plan that you could stick to. Because again, like that's like, I'm gonna cut carbs, I'm gonna go on keto, and then how long is that gonna last? How are you gonna feel? How long is it gonna last? But saying like, I'd like to start prioritizing protein, then you can like look up different protein sources or ask your registered dietitian. And then you can decide which ones you like, combining plant-based with, animal protein, if that's something that you do. And then finding a fun carb to go with it. It's more of a concrete statement that really expresses how you actually feel and gives you something to move with, gives you a solution that you can take.
I like that, like, not being so extreme, but say, "Hey,
Right.
I'm still gonna have carbs because I need carbs. It's our body's
Right.
preferred and primary energy source, but I need to bring more intention to what I've been lacking." That doesn't mean I
Mhm.
have to just because you're having more protein doesn't mean you have to have less carbs or we have to give them up entirely. It's
Mhm.
just a shift in priorities
Yeah.
temporarily or intention, really. So good. I love
Yeah.
this.
Me too. No, I love it. And it's good to talk about it. It's good to because it's good for us too. Because I don't know about you, but my brain is not like, perfect all the time, every day. Like I get tired, I get overwhelmed, and I'm like, like last night I was feeling like I I had a really long drive from the site that I'm rotating at right now, and there was so much traffic. I just wanted to get home. I was tired. My jeans were like stabbing into me. I had like some like a mini bread thing, like bag of that in the car, like kind of like one of those little things that you put like jam on or whatever. And I was like, "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
so hungry." And so I literally like just like opened it and was like eating it while I was driving. And I felt better because I was hungry. I had, like, so much though, and I was like, "Oh, kinda a little too much there." And then I got home and I was like, "Oh," like, I just felt like I just wanted to take off my clothes that I had been wearing for, like, 12 hours at that point. I just wanted to
Yeah.
take a shower, my hair was dirty, and my fiancé was like, "Do you wanna go eat dinner tonight?" And what I wanted to say was, "I never wanna eat ever again in my life." Like, I just felt so, like, full and bloated and tired, and I wanted to take a shower, and I didn't want anyone to talk to me, and so I was like, "Go away," you know? Like what I should have said or what I could have said would have been like, I feel so like I just feel so yucky right now. And like I just ate, a ton of that whatever over there. And like I'm just like so not hungry right now that that doesn't sound appetizing to me. But let me take a shower, I'll blow dry my hair, and then we can talk about dinner. And like
Right.
obviously by
Mhm.
the time dinner was ready, like I ate it and I was hungry, but in that moment you're just like, well, like you
Yeah,
just
and you
feel
weren't really hungry.
yeah,
Yeah.
I, like, wasn't hungry. I was, like, feeling yucky. I had just driven for, like, an hour or not really driven, I was just sitting in traffic for, like, an hour. So I was
The
just
worst.
so irritable. So sometimes we can just say things that are so extreme, like, in a heightened emotional state, but it's like, you know, put words to it, like, I just, like, shoveled a bunch of those whatever into my mouth, and food doesn't sound appetizing to me right now, so I can't even think about where I wanna eat for dinner, but, like, check in with me later about it. Check in with me in, like,
Yeah.
30 minutes, and I'll be good.
Especially if you had something that was, like, just carbs, like, we burned through that so quick, like, you're
Yes.
gonna be hungry soon
Yes.
after that.
And I totally
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
I totally was. And dinner was great.
Oh, good. No, but that's a really real example.
Yeah.
That's so real. Anyway,
Mm,
yeah, thank you for
yeah.
sharing that.
Do you wanna go over, like, more things that, like, people say that we can reframe?
Yeah. Yeah,
Let me
absolutely.
think. I don't know, like, what are some things that you hear? Because for me, I've been in the eating disorder space for a little while in regard to the population that I've been working with, and so there really is just a lot about body image and stuff and reframing that, but I'm curious to know, like, have you heard anything that I haven't mentioned yet from the people that you work with? And maybe, like, you don't have a reframe for it, and maybe we can come up with one.
Yeah. I have a couple clients right now that are going through some like the diagnostic process. So they don't really know what's going on, but they just feel so often they're kind of in this waiting period. I have a
Mm,
client that's like waiting for a biopsy. I have another one that's like waiting to get in with a specialist. And so they're kind of in that waiting and just feeling so frustrated with their health because they're like, I don't know what right action to take because I don't really know what's going on with my body. So they're kind of feeling like they need to do something and take action now,
mm.
and they are falling victim to different ads that they're seeing, different supplements and just like crazy things, and one of my clients ended up taking what's that one supplement, ashwagandha or something? Anyway, and
Oh,
the liver
ashwagandha? Is
yes,
that
yeah,
it?
so bad, and then her liver enzymes were through the roof, like, it was literally doing liver damage from taking the supplement that she thought was helping her, like, it
Right.
was just so crazy. So, I think I'm just sensing at the time of this recording, I have several clients that are very frustrated in the waiting. They're frustrated with their bodies, that their bodies like aren't working properly.
Mm,
And because that's something that we say too, like if someone's like, oh, I hate my stomach, that can be a neutral reframe. It's like, I have a stomach that functions. I have a body that functions.
right.
What do you do if like you feel like your body is just fighting against you and you really want answers? You feel like pressure to take action now when you
Mm.
probably just need to, like, sit, relax, and wait.
I think a good reframe, something to that they could just maybe, like, tell themselves is, "I want, my body and I to be on the same team." And I think a goal for them maybe could be like waking up and identifying what their body needs in that day. Cause every day changes. And then if you're going through different health issues that maybe you don't really have like a diagnosis or a treatment plan for, it's important to take it one day at a time. And then I think identifying that rest is really important, and stress is inflammatory. Stress is not
Yes.
good. So if we're and I've been there because I am a
Same.
quite the stressy girl. So it's like I have been there where you're like so stressed about your health that it's doing more harm than good. So, there's power in the pause of just sitting and identifying, what does my body need today? And, maybe it's like, oh, well, I said I was going to work out 3 times a week and blah, blah, blah. And I've only done it once and it's already Thursday or whatever. It's like, okay, that was my goal. I made that goal last week, let's just say. And today I'm just so exhausted. Like, don't know why I'm exhausted. Logically, I shouldn't be, but my body is. And so either I'm going to decide to do like a light walk or I'm just not going to move very much today. I'm just going to rest and
Mm,
be okay with that. Be okay with that
yeah.
decision.
And not thinking so far down the line and feeling like you need a plan and you gotta do all these things. It's
Yes.
like, just think about today, the present moment. How can I honor myself? And what's the next best action step?
Right. Right.
That's
Yeah.
good, that's good. Another thing that's been coming up a lot is comparison, where
Mm.
people, they walk into a room, they're constantly, like, kinda checking themselves and how they compare to other people, social media, 100%, like,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
just constantly comparing ourselves to other people, like, "Oh, I should look like that," or, like, they're how other people are living or looking, they're making that mean something about themselves. "Because I don't look like that,
Mm.
that means I'm doing something wrong."
Mm. I I feel like we all walk around very insecure and kind of like feeling like all eyes are on us. But if we all feel like that, then really all eyes are on, that the person, right? Like we're just so hyper focused on how we look, how we're sitting, how are my clothes fitting? Like, is my stomach sticking out? Like, are people judging my outfit? Are people judging?
Everyone's so self-centered. Everyone's
Yes.
concerned about themselves.
Yes. And then when you look at someone else, you're like, oh, their hair like so clean. I should have washed mine this morning. Like their skin is like so much clearer. Like, their makeup just looks so much better. And like, what am I doing wrong? And that outfit looks so cute on them. Like it wouldn't look cute on me. Like I feel like everybody else in my brain, like when I see them, looks probably a million times better than they perceive themselves. And then I'm like, I wish. So what I've been trying to do, this is like a personally something that I'm working on is that when I see other people, like, I really look at other people and I'm like, they're so, like, beautiful and cool and, like, unique in their own way, like, I just it might be, like, creepy, but I just, like, watch, like, the way that people, like, walk around and, like, the movements that they make when they talk and when they're interacting, I'm like, people are so beautiful and, like, it it's probably true that people think that about me when they see me in,
Yes.
3D in real life, like, so I'm like over here, like admiring everybody. And I could take that and turn it into like, oh, I probably look like a little hermit crab over here, like, hunched over and frizzy hair and whatever. Like, I can take that and elevate everyone else and judge myself. And again, that's like shrinking and feeling small.
Yeah.
Or I can be like, oh my gosh, she's so cool. She's so pretty. Like, she's just, everything looks great on her. Like, you know, uh, and like, I bet people think that about me, and I can just, and maybe they don't. Maybe they think I'm a lunatic,
Yeah.
but
No, but they
but it's
probably
fine.
do.
Yeah.
They probably do. And
Yeah.
honestly, if you think about someone that you love and you care about and you're describing them to someone else that doesn't know them, like, you would pick out, "Oh my gosh, this person's so funny. They're a hard worker. Oh my god, they slay everything they do."
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you would absolutely love them. Like, they're such a loyal friend. They're a good listener. Like, you would go through all of these different things and qualities about them. You probably wouldn't even mention how they look because it's
Yeah.
not important. It's honestly the least interesting thing about them.
Yeah. And honestly too, like, when I see different people, like, there's a lot of, like, body diversity in my life and, like, in the people that I interact with. And I just look because, like, sometimes I struggle with body image, like, it's just a fact, And I don't think that we'll ever be, like, free from it no matter, like, how much we help other people. Like, it's on hard days, and I find it's usually, like, when I'm tired and overwhelmed, I wanna take it out on something that I can see, and what I see is myself. But I see people in different bodies than me, and I'm like, "They're so confident, they're so cool, like, they dress, like, so nicely," and I'm like, "I can do the same thing. I can wear the jeans that are high-waisted that sometimes I feel insecure in, and I don't have to put a jacket over regardless of my perceive what I perceive as flaws, because other people might be like, "Dang, girl, look at her rocking that outfit." Like, because that's what I think
And you
about.
might give other people confidence. It's like, "Oh,
Yes.
wow, I was thinking about wearing a jacket to cover up my arms, but she's not, and she's
Yes.
not, like, I can do that too." Like, you don't
Yes.
know who else you're inspiring too, and I think we have to remember if we all exercised the same way, ate the same way, we would not look the same.
We would
We
not.
would still have very different bodies, and when we look to others to dictate how we should look, we really reject who we are.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so
Oh,
true, and I really do, and it's sad because, you mentioned social media and, like, this topic of comparison of, like, I sometimes I see, like, on obviously on my explore page, it's like, nutrition and whatever and dietetics and everything, and sometimes there's, like, exercise things, and I'm like, "Girl is so toned and whatever," and I start looking at the things that she does, and I'm like, "Well, I kinda like I do those workouts," and then I'm like, Hannah, even if we ate the same, even if we moved the same, even if we lived in the same house and did all the same things, we would not, our bodies would not be identical. And that's a beautiful thing. That's such a beautiful thing, and we like, and again, instead of seeing someone and like elevating them in your mind and then turning that back around and tearing yourself down, like, dang, that girl looks good. And then I just move on. And I don't have to flip it around and like compare myself and think about me. What is she doing that I'm not doing? And how can I look like her? Like, I used to do that a lot when I was younger. I used to do that a lot. And I think that was when like the Victoria's Secret angels were like really big and like, their fake tans and the bikinis and their workout plan and their eating plan. It's like, I'm like trying so hard to be someone else and I will never be someone else. So like how can I like help myself and like set myself up for success to be the best me that I can be? And like let my body exist as it wants to exist and do the movement that I find most joyful and fulfilling and eat the foods that nourish me and make me feel good, which might be different than other people. And just like letting all of that be and be okay with it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's okay to sit with that. And it's not realistic to be super positive every single day.
Yeah.
It's okay to have difficult body image days. And we can acknowledge that I'm having a difficult body image day and I'm still a good person.
Right.
You know? Ah,
Right.
so good, so good.
Yes.
Oh, Hannah, thank you so for all of your wisdom today, all of your reframes, just talking about the nuance. You say everything with such grace, and I
Yep.
just really appreciate your perspective, and I know that our listeners are gonna want more of you, so where can we find you? Where do you hang out?
Yes, I am all over the internet. You can find me on Instagram, which is my favorite place to be. I love social media. I really do. I can't live with it, can't live without it. You can find me on Instagram. It's at Everybody Nutrition. And there is a period between every word. So it's every.body.nutrition. I'm also on TikTok. You can just look up my name, Hannah Calhoun. I actually don't really know my TikTok username, but it's more of just, it's like a little bit of like nutrition body image and then also me just being weird and trying to be funny. So if you're interested in seeing that, go ahead. I'm
We're
ignoring it.
here for it, girl. We are here for it.
But yeah, just head to my Instagram and you can pretty much, find anything from there. Yeah. So and I love to chat with people. So anyone can DM me and stuff and I love a good conversation about all of this.
So good. Me too. So we will link all of that up in the show notes. And our last question that we ask all of our guests is what's something you're going to do this week to make your week better?
I think I am going to really try and just be present. I really just want to be present in every moment that I'm in. I tend to like be in my head and kind of future trip, be like, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. But I really want to be present with the people around me and, whatever it is that I'm doing in each moment in this coming week.
That's good. That's good. Oh, yeah. Hannah, thank you so much for being on today. I
Thank you,
appreciate
Albie.
you.
It was so fun. I love talking to you and I really appreciate you having me here.
Hey y'all, thanks again for listening to the Be About Being Better podcast. I so appreciate you. If this episode made you laugh, smile, think about yourself or your life differently, in any way making your life better, I empower you to share the show with 3 people who, just like you, need to hear this message and have this type of transformation in their lives. I personally read all the reviews of the show and see the Instagram story shares, and it honestly gives me so much joy to see that our mission is making people's lives better, and the reviews really do help in increasing our impact. So thank you so much for taking the time to do that. If you need personalized support with anything discussed in today's episode or need help creating a sustainable, diet-free lifestyle, take my quiz. It's linked below in the show notes, and that quiz will help you see which one of our coaching programs is right for you. Thank you so much again for listening, and here's to being about being better.